Hey, thank you guys for coming back in. We are Off the Bench Global, WDRBmedia. We really appreciate everything that you're doing. This platform is awesome. We're here again, talking about Are You Essential? Part 2 of You Are Essential, because it's important that we actually communicate with you guys about how important you are, not just us in this panel right now, but you are important to viewers. So individually, we actually during this quarantine have found out a lot about ourselves, because we are now in isolation where we actually have to communicate with ourselves and understand what are we right now and what do we need to learn? How can we add to ourselves? What can we benefit from adding to ourselves, so we can make sure that we understand that we're essential versus just coming in our house and beating our chest like I'm the man, I'm the woman, So what does that mean, really? We talked about last episode, we talked about how Michael Jordan and his consistency, we was able to call him the great because of the consistency that he actually put forth. People have a difference of opinion with Michael Jordan, but at the same time, he was who he was, and we can't take that from him. The only thing that we can take from him is when we compare him to somebody else, but we're not comparing to no one else. We're actually now talking about a capability, who you are and why you are, and that's the purpose of our mental health. So moving forward, we was talking about last episode, we talked about how important it is. I talked one episode about virtual learning. Virtual learning being the kids are interacting, talking to each other, communicating. The student teachers giving a shout out to the Virtual Learning Center. The students are doing a great job. Channel 9 News, WSOC TV, thank you for putting us on your broadcast. But also we want to make sure that you understand not just the communication as far as the book learning, but they are also chatting and communicating with each other. Because when it came to the lunch table, if you're shy or if you or whatever you are, you might be at the lunch table by yourself where I'm gonna sit, but this virtual learning have us in a position where we can actually communicate and talk about each other and learn each other, virtually, casting away the shyness and really putting forth the effort to actually understand each other. Awesome. But that's where we are, and we're gonna move forward because Coach, I know that you dealt with a lot when it comes to not just the basketball part, but also personally, with the school and, Hopewell, you really had to really engage yourself, where they had to know who you were, not just because you was a coach by title, but they had to see why you was essential to the school.
Right. Well, just to keep it right where we are today, I appreciate that segue from shout out to my high school coach, Hopewell Lady Titans, but we have another blessing here today, our production crew. We have our videographer, and Josh, who's here today.
Absolutely.
And he's
Right Price Media.
Yeah. And the greatest thing is that Josh, we talked in the past, he was homeschooled, and we want to get some insight to our viewers. And also David, just in the last segment, let us know that his kids are homeschooled.
Right.
So we have a grown man here, even though he's younger than us, but he has been homeschooled.
That's right.
And he'll be able to give us a little insight on what has transpired, how was that dynamic, and will definitely help some of our listeners now who are going through some real stresses and pressures, because this has been thrusted upon.
That's right.
Your mom, am I correct? Your mom is the one, and you'll explain to what aspects she's done and what she's formulated. She started it. She wanted to do that, but we have parents out there who had no clue about what's going on. So
what's the new math?
What's the new right? So I want you to just give us a little bit of your experiences coming up being homeschooled.
All right, yeah, for sure. First off, make sure you check me out on my socials. Right Price Media on Instagram. But for sure, so the dynamic with my parents when it came to homeschooling was my mom would take care of like reading and literature and everything like that, and my dad took care of math. So I believe it really like helped out by them splitting up the work that like one parent didn't get, like too much put on them or like too much pressure or something like that. Like they could step away and like relax a little bit while the other parent like picked up the load and stuff like that. So every summer, whenever we had time, my mom always made sure that she got these little they were like really, really, really thick packets, and like every day there was a new like worksheet and assignment you had to do.
Right,
so she made sure we always had those. So even though like looking back, like at the time it really wasn't that fun because I'd have to like wake up and then like while I'm eating breakfast I'd be doing these little math problems. But it really like it helped, and it was easier for me to do that because I could wake up on my own time rather than have to wake up at like 5 or 6 in the morning to catch the bus and then go out to school. So I would be doing my work at the table and everything like that. Only like major downside to homeschooling was the lack of interaction that you do with other kids.
Now I want to throw some things back to you in a second, but I want to piggyback to David about what you said, because you were fortunate to have both of your parents tackle some of the things. And what some parents, single parents, and even some who haven't, who's still out there working, essentially, primarily there's just one parent that's tough dealing with it. So I'm going to throw to David, because your kids are being homeschooled. And you can tell me from the parent side of how it's going and what some of the things that you have experienced with that.
I think to some of the things that Joshua said, definitely we do. One person just doesn't do everything. So sometimes I'll get the boys. Sometimes my wife will do the girls. And we'll just switch it up. My kids range in age, so of course, you know, they're not all doing the same thing at the same time. So it is a challenge. I wouldn't say that it's easy and we just knocking it down and we're doing all this. It's a challenge. It's very intentional, and you have to put a lot of thought into it. And so one thing I will say is that it's rewarding, because to touch on another thing that Joshua said is that, you know, my kids get to wake up at the natural time that they wake up, and that makes them more motivated as opposed to, you know, getting up at 5:30. We got to be out the house by 6. Got to fight traffic. Got to drop you off at school, and then, you know, you haven't eaten anything. It's it has its pros and cons. For me, in my house, I would say more pros than cons. Like I said, just very rewarding to be able to know that I can teach my kids myself, as opposed to you know, relying on somebody else to do that for me. And so that allows me to, you know, basically develop and curtail their learning how I want them to learn.
Absolutely.
And then I can also, in retrospect, look back and see, you know, what's the best way they learn. So as a teacher, they might say, oh, well, you know, your child is rambunctious and he won't sit down, so, you know, he needs Ritalin, and, you know, and then you just mess them all up, you know what I'm saying? So, you know.
And to that point, everybody learn different. Everybody learn different. But I'm going to pull back on that word that you use, challenging. And one of the shows that we had, we talked about when do a diet become a lifestyle. So when it comes to a challenge, you know, you actually go into a diet trying to make sure that you understand that you're moving towards a lifestyle. So when it becomes a lifestyle, it's in you. You know, it's in you. So with that being said, David, I know that you now have different age groups when it comes to teaching. And going to you too, Josh, when did it become your thing as far as Right Price Media, the things that you faced, you know, the challenges that you faced, that you knew that I can't just do this as a diet. I got to make sure that this becomes a lifestyle when it becomes you as an athlete, you know, so being that student. But first, let me ask you this, David. David, when it comes to the different tutelage that you give your kids, you know, it's kind of challenging for you at first, but now it's become a lifestyle. So what do you encourage the parents to do to keep moving forward and don't feel like they're less than, or feel that we are being condescending to them? You know, we're not talking down on you. We're all trying to help each other, because mental health starts here first.
I would say the very first thing that you would need to do is, for a prime example, is if you wanted to work on a car, you wouldn't go and be friends with a carpenter. So you need to find like-minded people.
That's right.
So if you find another, you know, person that does homeschooling, and they've already basically laid the foundation to have something that they can give to you to keep you encouraged.
Right.
And so I would just, encourage the parents to get with some like-minded people, because there are tons of co-ops out there that you can link up with parents that, my goodness, man, we've met so many different parents that homeschool, just getting the kids going to the park at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. And all the parents in there, and they're like, oh, you guys homeschool? It's like, yeah, we homeschool. Okay, what curriculum do you use? Well, we use this. What do you guys use? Well, when do you guys go here? And just another FYI, you can go down to it's downtown. Y'all have to forgive me, my short-term memory is bad. The Discovery Place.
Right.
The Discovery Place actually has a time for homeschool kids to come there. So if you do homeschool, you can take them to the Discovery Place.
Different environment.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, because to this day, like, I'm still really close to like families that my parents put us together with because they were also homeschooled.
Right.
My godparents, to this day, like, I know them because my parents like joined a homeschool group with them.
Right.
They would like get together, and then we'd all be, it kind of be like a classroom, because we'd all get together and do stuff like that. And then like another like really big plus to homeschooling that you were talking about, that you get to choose your child's education.
Right.
So one of the things I like really can say my parents helped out with me is like the educating me on money, like how to actually be smart with money, and like not going out here wasting money, to actually like save money, to invest money, and to try to like set yourself up to where your kids have money and you're not dying and then like just giving them bills. You actually die, give them assets, and give them like money or land and stuff like
awesome.
that. That's another like really big thing that homeschooling can do, because you don't learn about these things in school.
That's cool. So we talked about too about culturally, learning your lineage, learning your heritage, just your immediate, what's going on, what your grandmother do, what your great grandmother do, what your great grandfather do, all these stories about where you come from, your hometown, and so on and so forth. You get an opportunity to teach that doesn't get taught in the schools.
That's right.
Exactly.
And so I wanted you guys to touch on that a little bit, as you just did. David, if you have anything that you have done with your children in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. Every time we go back home to Alabama, my children, actually, they're fortunate. They have a great grandmother on my wife's side, and then grandparents from my parents. So we tell them about because we can only go back. And I was even thinking what Joshua said, how he did where'd you go to Ancestry.com? Which one you did? Yeah, we was thinking about doing that because my parents, they can only go back so far. So we want to keep going back further to see exactly where we end up. But every time we go home, we take them to all the old houses where I grew up. Show them where my grandparents
tell them stories about.
Tell them stories. So show them all of that, and so that they can know where they come from the cloth from which they're cut. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's important, because, that's like good, you said, you don't get that at school.
In school, Yeah. Now with these things going on now, with the pandemic, the quarantine, and the change of distance learning, real quick, I would like to hear both of you's perspective on. Do you think or feel that there's going to be a shift in homeschooling as far as the growth?
Yeah, I would definitely say yes. I could see the shift even before the pandemic.
Gotcha.
Like I said, there's actually 2 homeschool stores here in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg County area.
That's good. That's good.
So if you need information, you can go to those places. They have a wonderful array of books and information that you can use to teach your kids. But going back to will there be a shift, I definitely will say that it will. I think more people now are starting to see the importance of not just being able to homeschool, but do other things to become more self-reliant, as opposed to being so dependent on other things. So,
Josh, your perspective on that? Do you think there's going to be a shift?
A little bit. I mean, David really just hit pretty much all the points I really would have had. So I don't really.
I wanted to add this though, because the misnomer of a lot of times with homeschooling, we don't have much time, but I wanted to throw this out. This is your plug, baby. Okay. Sometimes people say, "Oh, homeschool, so now I can't partake in other things that normal kids do in school, as far as athletics and so on." You were very fortunate. Can you talk about that a little bit? Yeah,
it's so false. So from the age of, I think, 4 or 5, my dad had me in Pop Warner football. I did basketball, all types of things. Like there's still plenty of things that you can get into sports wise and everything like that. There's like sometimes it'll be like church leagues or like stuff like that. There's if you actually like go out there and look, you can definitely get out there. And then like the biggest thing is just like when I was growing up, it's just playing with the neighborhood kids. Right. Like when I, on the weekends, you know, they're not at school, I'm not at school, so you just go out, we be playing tackle football or, you know, just basketball in the driveway and stuff like that. So
and how did that benefit you?
Oh, definitely, because that was kind of like that gave me the socialization, and then it also I just really love sports because it teaches you a lot that you know you won't learn normally. Like how to work with other people, you know, just like a lot of life lessons that are valuable to, you know, life.
Right. Yes. For a young person.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, make sure you guys stay tuned with us at Off the Bench Global. Make sure you also comment down below. Get in touch with Right Price Media so he can actually get you guys into a place where you can take pictures of your images as image. You know, you can actually take pictures to make sure that you actually have everything that you're doing documented. And we love the fact that you guys are interacting with each other and learning each other, and also we want to make sure that you guys stay positive with each other when it comes to adults and kids interaction. All right, have a good one. Bless you.
Peace.
Take it easy.
Peace.